Hello guys, I'm glad to see you today. My name is Ina, and today I would like to continue our series of webinars. And the topic for the first webinar for today will be the difference between two very important and quite useful verbs. This is the the verb get and the verb become. We will discuss with you what is the difference between them, what they have in common, and how to use them if you want to use them. You can also look at the webinar. You can watch the webinar about get, its meaning, and phrasal verbs with get. It can be also useful for you. So let's start to discuss. I will use the board, and for practicing, we will use the PowerPoint presentation. So the topic of our webinar is get and become. The difference between them. We have get and become. The first, what you need to know is that both of them, they belong to they belong to such type of verbs as process verbs. These are verbs that show changes, and this is the main idea of these two verbs. What they have in common, that both of them can show changes which the person experiences or the object experiences. So the rule number one, when what is they have in common, this is that they both describe a change of state. Or a process of change, let's say. A process of change. I will not write the examples, but I will read you the examples. For example, as she waited to be served, she became very impatient. Became very impatient, that's her psychological state changed, let's say. She was calm and then she became impatient. The next one. Old Mr. Parson gets tired very easily since his operation. So his let's say state of health also changes very quickly. So in this case, we can change them and we can say get very impatient and become very tired. Well, this is how it is used, let's say. The next rule which we use, this is usually in this case, we use adjective. I mean, in the first one, when we describe the change of state or the process of change, after become and get, we use adjectives. Any adjectives like get tired, you had, become impatient, um, get surprised, and so on. But we have one very specific adjective. This is adjective used. You might be surprised, but actually the word used can be an adjective. And very often we can use become and get with used when we want to describe the habit, let's say. Maybe, let's say, well, yes, become, describe a habit. Actually, when it's not really like a habit, but when, as you remember, get and become show change. So when it becoming a habit, it's not a habit yet, but it will be. So we can use get used to or become used to. I will write it over here. Get used to or become used to. Also, you have to pay attention that after these two constructions, we have to use a verb with ing ending. Actually, it's gerund. I will read you now examples. I hated jogging at first, but eventually I got used to it, or I got used to jogging. And that means that it became normal for me eventually. At the beginning it wasn't, but finally it became normal. So in one more time, I'd like to remind you that get and become means change, and used to means adjective, or which means like accustomed to, like familiar with, that it's normal for you. When something becomes normal or gets normal for you, then we use this construction. I will tell you about this construction in details in our next webinar. The title of it is to get used to something. All right, let's look at our next rule, and this is quite important one. I'm sure you know such construction as passive voice. Sometimes instead of to be in passive voice, as you know, passive consists of to be and then past participle. Sometimes instead of to be, we can use get or become. But, well, it's a little bit different. Let's say, so number 3, we will have here, instead of to be, of to be in passive. This is the rule when we can use get and become. I will read you now an example in a regular passive voice. The trees in the garden were damaged. Were damaged is passive voice in the wind. But we can also use construction get or become. The trees in the garden got damaged in the wind. It just maybe adds it adds some emphasis, let's say, to our sentence. That's it, some stress, but it sounds very nice as well. So sometimes, not very often, but sometimes instead of the verb to be, we can use get in passive voice. And in this case, I'd like to pay special attention to the verb get, because according to all these rules, these are actually 3 rules that you need to know of using get and become. I have to say that get is used when we want to sound more informal, very often in our writing, very often in some comments or some imperative moods. We have to use get. Get sounds much more natural and much more often than become. So become can be used in all these 3 rules, but it is less common than get. Now let's look at some cases in which we can use only get and not become. Well, it's much better. All these cases are connected with our, let's say, construction. Okay, so when we use get, I will write you over here only get and get. Hope you can see. Almost like okay, fine. So the first one, when we do something ourselves, let's say. Oops. When we do something ourselves, what it means? Well, not do ourselves, but do something. Sorry, must be something. When we do something ourselves, that's or to ourselves. Let's say it like that. Okay. Very often we can say something that we did ourselves. For example, I got dressed. For sure, you did it by yourself because you say I got dressed, not I was dressed. If you say I was dressed, that means that somebody did it. But I got dressed, it means that you do it to yourselves, let's say. Okay, the next case when we can use get, when we have some maybe unfortunate events, let's say. Something unfortunate happened to you, some mishap. Okay, I will write unfortunate or mishap. For example, our car got stolen last night, or we got delayed because of the holiday traffic, or he feels his paintings are always getting criticized. So these are like kind of unpleasant things which happen to us. I will write here, the car got stolen. The car got stolen. All right. And the last one. The last rule when we use only get, well, not only the last one, actually we have one more. The last rule when we use get, this is when we do something and we are responsible for this event and we do something in our favor. And very often in this case, we also use reflexive pronoun. What are reflexive pronouns? This is myself, yourself, themselves, himself. For example, I see old Martin has got himself promoted at last. So he promoted himself. And in this case, we can say got. So I write over here, let's say, how to say this, made it happen. Responsible for the event. Let's write the rule, responsible for the event. Responsible for the event, and the example is he got himself promoted. He got himself promoted. Well, the last rule when we can use get in most cases, this is when we have some comments. What kind of comments you can say to a person? For example, get washed. If I look at my daughter, I see that she's dirty and I say, please get washed. Or get lost. Like if you are irritated with the person and you don't want to see him anymore, you say, please get lost. Like I will write that example. I like it. Get lost. So these are different comments. There is one more case in which we can use only become and we cannot use get. I don't know whether you can see it. I hope. Okay, I will write over here become. And the only one rule when we can use become and not get, this is when we talk about some jobs. When you want to become a doctor, you can use only become. We don't say get. Or when you want to become a counselor, a teacher, you want to become a mom, a dad, you want to become a sister. So when you want to change your state and you want to be somebody else, in this case, you need to use to become instead of get. So that's it. I have to say there is nothing else I can tell you. So when we talk about get and become, you have to keep in mind that in a lot of cases they are similar and in some cases they are different. Become, I will write you over here, job, and you will remember that when we want to become another person or not only job but like another state when we want to get, then we have to use become, not get. Well, these are all rules that I was planning to tell you. I guess that's enough. I wanted to keep in mind that in most cases sorry, after get and become, we use adjectives. This is the most common case when we say. And in all this, like over here, we use adjectives. Here we use adjective used to. Well, in passive we don't, but over here when we do something to ourselves, we can use adjective. Some mishaps also can be adjective or passive. When we're responsible for some events, can be adjective or passive, and for comments as well. Let's practice with you a little bit. I will now switch on the PowerPoint presentation, and I will show you some sentences in which you will need to use get or become, and I will comment them if it's necessary. Give me a sec. All right, so you can see here as a title, get or become, and now we will move on. The first one, you have here to make the choice. Either you want to use become or you want to use get. One more time, in lots of cases, we can use both. Only get sounds more informal. Of course, it's much more often in use than become. And in some cases, we can use only become. And in some cases, we can use only get. So you got a few minutes to think about, and maybe 1 minute, I think. And after that, I will check. So let's check. The first one. Sorry, I'm late. I got lost. This is a very common phrase. Although he was young, he became regarded by the people as their leader. It's like very more formal phrase, let's say. He wouldn't let me get a word in, and it became a bit irritating in the end. So you felt irritation. It's time to go to school. Get ready. This is our comment, and we have to use only get. Let's look at the next slide, please, and also think what kind of choice to make. So let's look at our next part. He became a minister in the government in 1981. We can use only become here because we are talking about the job. As the microscope was focused, the bacteria became visible. You can use got, but it sounds much better to become visible. The child got really excited on Christmas Eve. This is our adjective with get, and it sounds very nice. As his condition worsened, like got worse, his speech became unintelligible. Couldn't understand what the person was saying. In this case, we have already get, and we just need to think about what kind of adjective can be used after this construction. Also, you've got a minute to think, and then we will check. So let's look what we've got here. I will not hurry, but anyway, we have to move on. So put your coat and scarf on and you will get cold. Very easy to catch. Let's hope she gets better soon. It's getting dark. Maybe it wasn't easy, but if you accept all other answers, you can understand that dark was the best answer here. They had only known each other for 6 months when they got married in Las Vegas quite quickly, I think. They have worked there for 3 years, but they still got sacked. To get sacked, that means to lose your job. And the last one, the cottage got really badly damaged in the floods last year, unfortunately. And the last one, we have also here construction only get plus adjective or become we have also. And you have to think what kind of answer is possible here. So let's check our last slide, what we have here. Sorry we are late, the train got delayed. Some mishap, let's say, some unfortunate event. I got myself locked out the other day. Again, this is, you did it by yourself, you're responsible for this action. I wasn't surprised she got elected after all the efforts she made, so also she did it to herself, by herself. Their bodies have become adapted to living at the high altitudes. Become adapted, it's like to become used to get used to doing something. When something becomes familiar for you and normal. The next one, don't get upset about it. And the last one, this is the example which I already told you. Oh, get lost, will you? It's like when you are irritated, and this is our command, our imperative mood. Fine, guys. Let's finish our webinar. I hope to do the exercises wasn't very difficult for you. I would like also to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. While I was going to the office, I thought about some questions and decided to ask you them. So the first question, using our constructions, do you often get lost when you are in a new place? When you come to a new city or to a new country? Do you often use maps or you remember your path? How about the next one? After working out in the gym, do you get tired? How do you feel? Do you feel like full of energy or you feel exhausted? Do you get tired? Who did you want to become when you were a child? In your childhood, did you want to become an astronaut? Maybe you wanted to become a bus driver, or probably you wanted to become I don't know, a ballet dancer. The next one. Is it easy for you to become used to living in a new city? Imagine you are moving to a new city. Would it be easy for you to get used to living there, to become used to living there, or not? In the mornings, do you get dressed fast? Do you need a lot of time to get dressed, or you do it very quickly? Please answer aloud for yourself, then you practice these constructions. Would you like to become a boss of anything, of a company, of a restaurant? What do you think? Would it be fun for you or not? And the last one, are you dreaming about getting promoted? Would you like to be promoted? like if you're working in the office and you have some career opportunities, would you like to be promoted? Would you like to get promoted? That's it. I hope the information was useful for you. I think that all these rules are quite important, and using these two verbs in your speech will definitely boost your vocabulary and will help you to speak English fluently. Thank you very much for your attention. See you soon. Bye.